What is going on, guys? This is Daniel, and right now is part 2 of the defensive breakdown of Towns. I'll address some other aspects of his D and then give my final thoughts. Let's get to it. Let's start with post defense, and for the most part it's adequate. Against most offensive players, he can hold his own strength-wise, and here against Aldridge, he forces a tough turnaround, though Aldridge hits. He usually doesn't front the post in the half court, which I'm not going to complain about because the coaches may not want him to front, but here you see because he doesn't front, Howard gets pretty solid post position, though Towns is still able to take the charge. But he can get exploited by the bigger centers such as Howard, so here Howard just backs him down using his big strength advantage and finishes inside. You can see how a front would have been useful here to prevent Howard from getting the pass inside, but Towns doesn't front and then doesn't show much resistance to the spin move. Occasionally, while defending in the post, he'll get jumpy, and you see here he falls for the Aldridge pump fake and fouls. Now, every time he falls for the pump fake and jumps doesn't necessarily mean he'll foul, and that's what happens here as he jumps but doesn't foul. His energy isn't always the same, and this is an example of what he's capable of. With the ball on top, he fronts the post, preventing the pass, and then when the ball is swung, while he doesn't front the post, he pressures Aldridge from behind, not allowing the pass, and then later on the possession he does fall for the pump, but he avoids the contact nicely at the last second, and Aldridge misses. What's also a work in progress is his defense against post duck-ins in early offense, and you see that here. Ball side, he starts out in front of Vucevic, but he doesn't initiate the contact. Vucevic is the first to engage Towns, he gets in front of Towns, sealing him off and getting the post score. This time against Adams, he at least recognizes a post duck-in may occur, so he gets physical, but he gets a bit too aggressive and ends up tackling Adams. It's about finding that happy medium that he's yet to really do in a lot of areas of defense. But there are flashes that make you optimistic. So Howard has given Towns issues so far this season, but here Towns recognizes the early post up, fronts him right away, and then Crawford is there with the weak side help, and that's really good defense. Let's talk about defensive rebounding, and per game, Towns averages almost 9 defensive rebounds, but that's misleading in terms of his actual impact. When Towns is on the floor, the opponent's offensive rebounding percentage goes up 8.2% versus when he's off the floor for the Wolves. Simplified, when Towns is on the floor, opponents have greater success on the offensive glass. The film backs it up, and first off, big centers can give him issues, and here Dwight sort of just shoves him aside and gets the putback. This time he has trouble against Adams, but a lot of people have trouble against these big centers. What he can't afford to do is not box out, and unfortunately, that happens way too often. You see that here, he's ball watching and Aldridge sneaks in behind him for the putback dunk. He's not the only player in the NBA who doesn't consistently box out, but as a center, he should make this a habit, and again, you see Aldridge sneaking behind him for the rebound. I really enjoyed this from Aaron Gordon. So as the free throw is being shot, he looks into the crowd as if he's completely disinterested in basketball. And this fools Towns as now Towns doesn't box out. Who knows if he would have anyways. But a second later, Gordon is crashing the glass hard, he gets the rebound, and this was a poor possession for Towns because not only does he allow that rebound, when the 3 goes up, you see him move in, looking to pad his stats and grab an uncontested rebound. This gives up the long rebound to Gordon, and then Gordon takes him to the rim, and that was just poor focus and effort all around. Now, a lot of times he doesn't box out, but the majority of the time he at least bodies up. Here he finds himself behind Howard, but he uses a swim move and fights to grab the board. And this was textbook against Biyombo. The shot goes up, and he initiates contact, and it was such a good box out, he doesn't even grab the rebound. But overall, big centers can take advantage of him. He doesn't always box out, and then in the last video we mentioned how he goes for wild blocks, which takes him out of position to rebound, and that's why he has a negative effect on his team's defensive rebounding. Now let's talk about his perimeter defense, where he applies his quick feet pretty well. So here on the closeout, he discourages the three while staying balanced so he can contain the drive, and he gets the block. Keep in mind, most centers do not have Cat's mobility, and this makes him valuable as he can defend stretch fives and close out. We see that here, a good closeout against Vucevic, and it's a turnover. We also see that with switching. He is not asked to switch much, but when he does, he typically holds up one-on-one on the perimeter. We see that here as he contests the jumper by Melo nicely. One way to tell if he's engaged or not is if he starts jabbing his foot at the ball handler to keep him off balance, and that's what happens here as he jabs at Melo and forces a tough shot. So pretty promising stuff in terms of one-on-one defense versus a guard, and he typically forces a jump shot in this situation. He can hang one-on-one on the perimeter, but could he hold up switching much more or guarding fours full time? Possibly, but his perimeter off-ball defense would concern me. Playing perimeter defense is tough. You have to have a lot of focus and discipline, and this time when he's matched up against Gordon, you see he loses track of him, allows to cut along the baseline for the easy layup. My concerns stem from actual plays. So here in transition, it's pretty clear on the cross match he should pick up Kaminsky, but he's really late recognizing this, and Kaminsky gets the open three. To defend the perimeter player more, you have to be on point with these rotations and recognizing where to switch out. This time, Gordon comes off a down screen, and at this point it's pretty clear that Gibson falls a bit behind and won't be able to get out there quick enough. So what Towns should do is recognize him and Gibson are like size, and Towns should switch on to Gordon to take away that three. He's late getting out there, and Gordon hits it. Now, this really isn't fair. Towns is not experienced with off-ball perimeter defense, so of course he can't hang and switch and do all that stuff that experienced players would do. But considering all the other evidence of his lack of awareness and losing focus, I can project with an educated guess that he would struggle defending fours full time or switching more and dealing with screens and such. Now, against OKC, Towns played a great defensive game. He was engaged, brought energy, and showed off his athleticism and timing on blocks. So let's go through a few clips. So on this play, he misses the three, but it almost seems like he's excited to play defense as he rushes down on the defensive end very fast, and this gets him in position to come from the weak side and block this shot, all because he sprinted back on D. Even in this game where he did struggle at times with the mental aspect, he brought that energy and still provided a good defensive performance, and this was just a great play using his feet to contain Westbrook in the pick and roll. Here's an example of his inconsistency. Similar pick and roll with Westbrook, but he comes a bit too high and overextends himself, and he gets split. I'd say, based on watching, he's currently a below average defender, and defense is about consistency. He can bring it for certain stretches of a game, or even the full game here and there, but that's not quite good enough, and it's not just about the energy level or focus level. He has suspect awareness, makes mental mistakes, lacks proper fundamentals, and he also lacks a certain feel. So take Marc Gasol as an example, as someone who knows where to be on defense, isn't the most athletic, but will conserve energy. And that's where Towns lacks, as he goes for wild blocks which expend energy. So once he gets that veteran feel, he will become a better defender, but I'm still concerned with the awareness, and also can he bring consistent effort game to game. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.